Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of the DCL Show, coming to you from Orlando, Florida. I'm your host, Pete Werner, joined this week by Dreams Unlimited travel agents, Sean Falk.
Hi.
And Elaine Edwards.
Hey, friends.
And, of course, our producer, Mr. Craig Williams.
Ahoy, hoy.
The puppet master, as it were. Well, welcome to the show, folks. We hope your week in quarantine is as good as it can be. I think we're all getting a little punchy. I know I'm at the 1 month of quarantine now. I think we all are pretty much around that time, but a lot of stuff to talk about today. Mainly, we're going to talk about DCL cancellations and future cruise credits. There's a lot of confusion about these that we want to make sure we clear up. But we also want to talk about, just want to let everybody know that this morning, the day we're recording this, April 15th, Disney Cruise Line announced that it was canceling Mediterranean sailings on the Magic through June 7th. But I want to be specific with everyone. It is that's all they've announced. This is not a broad cancellation through June 7th. Although I think that's coming, believe me. But this announcement is specifically about Mediterranean sailings on the Disney Magic through June 7th. Those have been canceled. But I do want to talk about we do want to talk about these future cruise credits. I need to bring them up. I had them here, and just stuff that we want everybody to be aware of about these. Like I said, there's been a lot of confusion around it. So let me just go through some of the facts. Number one, if you cancel your Disney Cruise Line vacation and have requested a refund, Disney Cruise Line is telling us that it could take up to 90 days, 3 months, before those refunds are issued. This is not something, if you're a client of Dreams Unlimited Travel, this is not something we or your travel agent is going to have any control over. This is coming from Disney. Refunds are going back to the original form of payment that you used. So if you use multiple credit cards or Disney gift cards, the payments are going back to those forms of payment in the amount that you used. And monies are going to be refunded in the order that you applied them. So you'll get your deposit first, then any interim payments, then your balance. You will not get a lump sum payment on these refunds. And your future cruise credit, this is a big one. Your future cruise credit is based on the cruise fare, not the total price of your cruise. Remember that the price of a cruise includes the cruise fare plus port charges, taxes, and fees. Port charges, taxes, and fees are being refunded, again, to the form of payment that you used. Your future cruise credit is going to be based on the cruise fare at 125%. So I just want to clear that up because there's some confusion on that. And I know our agents, Sean and Elaine, have been navigating these waters with these cancellations since day one, or actually before day one, actually. So, Elaine, let's start with you. Talk to me about some of what you're seeing with these cancellations, things you want to make sure people know, and also what your recommendations are as far as strategies for using these future cruise credits.
So one thing that we want to point out is that the things that Pete explained is as of right now and have been in the last several rounds of cancellations. The very, very, very first round of cancellation was a little bit different. That happened back in March. And they actually took your sailing and you either immediately moved it to a new sailing within 12 months, or they put it as a placeholder and you retain your same confirmation number at that time. That was only like 2 weeks in March that happened. So that was the very, very, very first round of people. But from here going forward, they've been doing these 125% future cruise credits, which is so much more flexible. So much, I mean, this works out so much better because as soon as they are canceling, they are immediately putting this into your Castaway Club account, and it's by person. So if you have 5 people on your sailing, then each person has money attached to them. And so that's where it gets a little dicey, because if you have one person that says, I don't want to sail anymore, then they can get a refund just for their fare that they paid. So a lot of what we're seeing right now is I have a lot of guests that have rebooked for summer and fall. And I have a lot of guests that have rebooked just for their exact same cruise for next year. We're seeing a lot of that. And so we are seeing a lot of spring 2021 cruises starting to get full because people are just saying, okay, I was on the 7-night Western Caribbean. I just want to do the same week, same 7-night for next year. So.
And Sean, talk to us about some of what you're seeing.
I not sure if you're actually able to see me. Everyone froze a while ago for me, so
no, we can see you.
If you can see and hear me, that's fine.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, somewhat like what Elaine was saying. At the beginning, it was about essentially picking, I want to cancel or I want to rebook, and then you just kind of went on a list. And with Disney, I mean, they're saying it takes about 3 months to get money back. Air can take up to that amount. Most of the time, the problem is with your own bank or your own credit card company. So if you traditionally are canceling, that's the delay for the most part. Once Disney releases the money, it's out there and it's back to the place it's supposed to go. And then it just takes a bit for your bank to process it back to you. Right now, because of them being so backed up at the beginning of this and not having the infrastructure to deal with the issue, which is understandable, they have essentially just had to put people on a list. And once they get to your cancellation or rebooking, that's where you're at. For those rebookings, they were essentially just setting a dummy date, which is some fake date that's out in the cosmos that the Disney people know. So when people call in to rebook, it would look like they're on this cruise to nowhere, and they could just pull you and put you on something else. Now, of course, it's linked to your Castaway Club number, like Elaine was saying, and you really do, now that it's that way, you do have to. It adds a new caveat into what you want to do, because we do get people a lot. They're like, oh, some of us want to go and some of us don't, or some of us want to do different cruises. And that's worked out really well because you may have been traveling 2 couples that were sharing a room or extended family, whatever. And certain people can only do certain dates. So that part of things is a little more flexible. But, being flexible about what you want to do, you're not limited to just the cruise or the sailing that you chose. I've had clients that were booked on a Caribbean sailing, and now that they have 125% credit, I can get them on an Alaska sailing instead of just sticking with the Caribbean. So it is pretty flexible. You don't have to use it in the same way that you used it before.
And yeah, Elaine, you were nodding your head while he was talking. You've seen that as well.
Yes. I have had several people upgrade their stateroom. Everybody is really excited about this extra money as well as extra time. Maybe you booked your cruise a year in advance. You've been saving for it and making those payments for a year. And maybe you decide, okay, now we're going to go in summer 2021. Not only do you have this extra 25%, but you have a whole nother year to save up money and put money towards it. So this can really, if you've been wanting to go to Alaska, or you've been wanting to go to the Mediterranean, or you've been wanting to, hey, let's try out Concierge, you can now upgrade yourself. And this is a really great thing that's happening.
Well, Sean, you were telling me last night you had a situation with a client that was in an inside stateroom on a Caribbean sailing, right? Mm-hmm. And
yeah,
with the 125% credit, you were able to get that client onto a 7A, a balcony stateroom on an Alaska sailing.
Yeah. It was, they messaged back and just said, hey, we want to do the Caribbean. We don't know what dates we want. Let's, we kind of think we want August, September timeframe. And so I just toyed around with a little bit and found out the money they were spending. I think they still ended up with about $100 left over by doing a 7A. Especially right now, a lot of people canceled their Alaska cruises. So it opened up a lot more availability in rooms that weren't available. And the other thing to keep in mind, if you're thinking about rebooking, or if you're not somebody with a future cruise credit, a lot of people canceled their cruises for the fall and the summer. They just preemptively, because you need to pay off your final payment at least 90 days and sometimes 120 days before your cruise. So a lot of people, as we got into March and April, they were like, oh, my cruise is July and August, either because I've gotten furloughed, I don't know what's happening with the economy, or, they just don't know what they weren't ready to make a final payment. They canceled. So a lot of those rooms are reopened back up and people are able to book them. The same thing still applies as it normally does. Booking earlier is going to make it less expensive. So, I mean, if you want to look into doing that, like European sailing for 2021, obviously you can look into that, or especially when fall rates come out or whatever, getting in on the front end of it, that will make the money you have go even further because the cost of that cruise is going to be lower.
Now, one thing I want to talk about, because we've been seeing a lot of it, and I appreciate it beyond measure. We've been saying on a lot of shows that, obviously as a travel business, this situation has hurt us like every other travel business. And we've been encouraging people, if you like our content, if you like the work that we do, the best way to show your support is book your vacation with Dreams Unlimited Travel, because that's what pays the bills here. That's what pays for the DIS. That's what pays for the shows that we do. And we've had a lot of people come to us and say, hey, I want to transfer to you. But if you let the experts talk about it. What are the circumstances under which someone can transfer a cruise to Dreams? I'll let either one of you answer.
Okay, I'll start talking.
Sure.
So if let's just start with straight transfers and then we'll get into the cancellations. If you have booked a cruise within the last 30 days and you've only made your deposit and you've booked it directly with Disney, you can transfer it to us. We even have a page right on our website that's just a form. You just fill it all out with all your information. It comes into us and we start the process. We cannot accept transfers from other agencies for cruises that are still running. With these brand new future cruise credits, no matter who you booked with, if your cruise has been canceled and you now have a future cruise credit, we can rebook this for you. There's no transfer process. There's no paperwork you need to sign. You don't need to go through Disney or another agent, anything. All you have to do is let us know the date of your cruise and what your reservation number was, and then we can take it from there and we can get you rebooked with these future cruise credits. So you've gotten an additional 25% at that point. Plus, you're going to get our shipboard credit on top of that and our awesome gifts basket.
Couldn't have said that better myself. Sean, is there anything you want to add to that, Sean?
No, I mean, the only thing would be like I've had a lot of people message that have placeholder cruises that they had booked with Disney that they want to use with us. Those, if it wasn't booked within 30 days, like if you didn't make it within 30 days, which as of April 15th, you couldn't have possibly got it within the last 30 days. We can't use those just because they were placeholders you bought on the ship. So you only had 30 days to move them. As much as we appreciate the offer, we just can't. I can't take it from Disney at that point because it's been too long.
Now, tell me if you guys are seeing what I'm starting to see and what I'm starting to feel. Right, I had a lot of trips booked this year. That I'm supposed to be, Sean and I are supposed to be on our way to Egypt in a couple days for an Adventures by Disney trip, which obviously we're not going on. We had cruises booked, and we have a cruise booked on Disney for the end of May. We had a Carnival booked in the middle of June. We had another Carnival booked at the end of August for an Alaska sailing. They have now canceled that. Not that they're not going to Alaska. They're just not doing as many ships to Alaska, and the one that we were on, they've canceled. I've been having this, I think because now I've gotten accustomed to this new normal at the moment. It's not what it was in the beginning. I don't know how else to put it. Now I'm like, okay, what am I going to plan next? Like, what am I going to do with these canceled cruises? What am I going to do with these canceled vacations? And so my head is starting to move in that direction. I'm starting to see indications of that, like especially when I look at social media. Are you guys seeing that in terms of your clients?
I'm seeing a lot of people that, okay, the most of us have been homebound for about a month now. Most of Americans have been homebound for about a month, and people are ready. People are ready wanting to get out of the house, and people are ready to start traveling. We're coming up on getting close to the end of the school year. Summer's coming. People are normally going on their summer vacation when school gets out. And I've seen personally in my social media feeds, a lot of people saying, okay, I'm ready to start planning my trip for this summer. Where should I go? And I think people are ready. I think people are ready to start booking. And I know we've seen it at Dreams that requests for vacations in the last week have just exponentially picked up for sure.
Yeah. To me, I think it's been a general mindset shift for a lot of people. I think a lot of people, myself included, who weren't taking this very seriously at the beginning, started taking it more seriously. And by the beginning, I mean like late February, early March timeframe. Even as of the 14th, of March, when Disney canceled cruises, I still had a 3-night on the Disney Dream booked for the end of March. And at that time, I still was like, I'm going on that cruise. If it's happening, I'll be there. By the time the date actually came around, I was like, I wouldn't get on that cruise for anything at this point, because 2 weeks made a drastic difference. And even at that time in mid-March, just going to the grocery store, the one trip I took, they were out of broccoli and a couple of other little things, and like Clorox wipes, obviously. But then by a week later, the next time I went back, there was absolutely no meat at the grocery store. And I was like, okay, cool. So all the meat and all the mac and cheese and all the box stuff is all gone. Now, when you go back to the grocery store, at least in my area, there's everything except Clorox wipes still. But there's not these limited supplies. It feels like people are less panicked than they were at the beginning. So I think people have just kind of not figured out what the future of it is. I think people have just kind of figured out, like, at some point life goes on, even if there's a new norm. Not to even compare it as drastically, but similarly to how we used to fly before 9/11 compared to how people fly after 9/11. I mean, because of that happening, certain things got put in place to make things safer, and people became mindful of what the reality could be of things. And they're like, okay, now I got to take my shoes off at the airport, because that's a reality of something that can happen. So I think people have they're getting more used to it now, is what I would say. So yeah, I don't know if that means people are ready to travel, but they're definitely ready to like move on mentally to the next step.
Exactly.
I guess.
I think that's what we're seeing. Craig, let me ask you, since we haven't really brought you into this discussion, like, what are your feelings personally about you and Kylie, your wife, about travel? Are you starting to get that same feeling that I'm getting, which is, I really want to start thinking about when I'm not going to be in quarantine anymore and I'm able to go and travel.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't stopped with any of it. It's just Kylie's in a different position because she has a lot of medical issues that require her to be a little bit more vigilant about what she does and where she goes, and so like I understand for her that she's not going to be ready to just jump right back into it. So it's the hard.
So
part.
You'll go on vacation. You'll go on vacation without her then.
See,
which is what you do.
That's what I would do. Like I was so,
and call it work.
It always is work. One of the things I was super excited about is that it was before all this happened. It was looking like that we might have had to end up in California for a little familiarization thing in April, and I was like, oh man, I'm itching to get to California. It's all going to be good. I would still, anytime anything like that would come up, I would still do it. But the hard part for me is now having to say, okay, well, I'm coming home. It's then, will my wife accept me back into the house? Because I could be contagious with anything in her mind. So that's the boundary that I'm going to have to try to figure out. Is it going to be a thing like, yeah, I have to come home?
You're not staying with me. You're not staying with me. Okay,
I think I agree with that, and like that's what I was thinking. It's not even so much with coronavirus; it's a thing. I think it's going to be a thing for a lot of people. Or like, what's the next thing? Because like, after 9/11 happened, it's like, is this going to be a thing that happens? Like, what happens there? And so certain things are going to have to go in place to quell people's fears, to get them to like want to go out again and want to stay out beyond that. Because of course, the next thing that flares up, it's not going to be like it was forever ago when it was swine flu or SARS or MRSA or whatever,
MERS.
The different bird flus and all that, where people were just like, oh, remember SARS happened, and then like, oh, we were getting like letters in the mail with anthrax on it. Like, it's just one of those things where people don't remember it as much, but they'll remember this one.
Well, it's important to remember the difference between swine flu, SARS, MERS, even the Ebola outbreak. Those were not nearly as contagious as this is. And that's why this, people are like, well, we didn't shut down when those happened. Yeah, well, there's a reason, because this is so much more contagious. Even though those had a higher mortality rate, right? SARS and MERS had a higher mortality rate than coronavirus does, but it was much more difficult to get it. This is so much easier to get. So it is going to change how we sail, and I think that's a whole another show.
Yeah.
But what I want to remind people, thus far, I have to say I am very impressed with how Disney Cruise Line has handled this. I'm impressed with their immediate response was either we will give you a full refund or we will give you 125% credit. Now, I shouldn't say their immediate response. They've adjusted this from the very first. I think the first time around, the first thing where they were not giving refunds, but I think they were given 150% cruise credits, weren't they? For a little bit?
Well, the ones that got canceled, and it was like they're leaving the next day. Like that happened with some, and also the people on that Panama Canal cruise, they got some pretty good perks.
Yeah.
For theirs. Theirs was a whole different story. So,
but they quickly adjusted, and they've been fantastic. I really have to say, I think they've been really, really good. And when they start sailing again, I'm going. I may go with a mask on, and I may be washing my hands like 15 times a day, like I'm scrubbing in for surgery, but I'm going.
And that's the thing. I mean, I even safe going on a Disney cruise because of all of the precautions that they took under their normal circumstances. I mean, before you walk into cabanas, before you walk into any of the restaurants, they were handing you towelettes to wash your hands. The kids clubs, the kids have to put their hands in the little mini hurricanes, everything. I mean, they were already taking precautions to make sure that people were not spreading sickness, that the ship is absolutely clean, that I almost feel safer going on a Disney cruise than going to Disney World.
I don't know that I feel that way, because I think I can social distance. I have a lot more control over social distance at Disney World than I do on a cruise. And that's what remains to be seen. What is that going to look like? But the point I'm trying to make is that even if I rebook something, right, and I trust that if it has to be canceled, if something comes up with this, or who knows where this is going, I trust that they're either going to give me a full refund, no questions asked, or the future cruise credit. So that gives me that sense of, I can be confident, because I'm really last night I was looking at a lot of different sailings. There were sailings I really want to do. I have some cruise credit probably coming to me when they cancel the one at the end of May, which is I'm almost certain is going to get canceled. I hope it doesn't. I hope we can do it. But I'm just in that mindset now. Go ahead, Sean.
The only, and it's not a ding against Disney. So when you buy insurance for your cruise or for Disney World or whatever, it is with a third party company that Disney works with, and they do a great job. So it's not. I do recommend the insurance company Disney uses. I have been a little frustrated on people's behalf, however, as they've canceled World and Cruise Line and stuff, that they're not getting their money back for the insurance side of things. And I do get it. Like, they bought insurance and you usually wouldn't get your money back if you canceled. But the fact that everyone who didn't buy insurance is getting all their money back as well, I'm like, I feel like the insurance should be given back. Like, I feel like that, and the insurance company, that third party company, should be refunding people that, just because this was canceled cruises and it was something out of their control. And especially as picky as insurance places tend to be. So it has made me more like, I might look into, for myself buying my own travel insurance, I may look more into my own credit card companies or outside travel places that I can get stuff a little more all encompassed, like the flight with the cruise, with the thing, with everything, that just is a little more covered, I guess. Yeah. So that's been my only drawback, which isn't Disney's fault. It's the third party insurance's fault.
So, well, yeah, I mean, I understand that, but I understand the frustration too.
Yeah.
Especially when you have a lot of companies, airlines, cruise lines, hotels, a lot of travel related businesses have been wonderful about giving people refunds, about not giving people the run around. But we've been hearing stories certainly about the trip insurance companies not necessarily stepping up, considering this an act of God and kind of covering themselves under that.
Right.
Under that clause. But, that on a technicality that may be accurate, but doesn't give them a very good name. But so that's it, folks. I think that'll do it for the show, unless there's anything else anybody wants to add that they want to make sure people know. I will add that if you're interested in booking with Dreams Unlimited Travel, or booking with Elaine or Sean specifically, we will have links in the show notes right below this, with links to their individual agent pages as well as to Dreams Unlimited Travel. And we certainly do appreciate that support. That, like I said, that helps us keep producing content across all our sites. But thank you for joining us, folks. We hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you again next week with another edition of the DCL show. Take care.